Hey y'all, what's up? Before I get into anything, I want to say that I'm making a lot of these videos to um, give advice, give insight, and talk about my experience and things that I really wish I would have known and thought about before getting married and making that commitment. Even before getting engaged and moving in with someone, I think these are things that people should know and think about and do. But if you don't want to hear it, if you don't want to listen, if you don't want to watch this, if you think it's stupid, just click out. It's not gonna hurt me. I'm doing this because I want to do this, and it makes me happy to share these things and do this because I feel like it is a positive and healthy way for me to talk about what I learned and the mistakes I made. This is gonna end up being an 8-part series, and so I'm gonna make part 1, part 2, part 3, all of that. And in each video, I'm gonna talk about a different topic of like things I learned when it comes to that topic and like things you should know before getting married. So today is about budget, and I'm gonna go through a bunch of different things that you need to budget, and yeah, let's get started. The first one is food and eating out. I think this is the number one because people have different eating habits, and people were raised differently. Some people ate fast food their entire childhood, and they carried that on into adulthood. Some people were raised to sit down to a homemade meal every single night for dinner, and that's how they were raised, but they decide to go off that path and start eating junk food, or they stay on that path and only want to eat healthy. That's something you have to talk about, is when you decide to cohabit with someone and make a commitment to be with them, like you have to talk about, what do we want our eating habits to be? What do we want to spend our money on? How much do you want to spend on groceries every week? And are you going to plan meals? Or are you going to come up with something out of the groceries you get? And then you have to talk about, if you're getting groceries, how many times a week are you going to stay in and eat at home? And how many times a week are you going to eat out? Because it will add up when you eat out. And it will also cause fights because, like I said, everyone has different eating habits, and not everyone wants to spend money on fast food, and some people think it's a waste of money. So I've seen it cause a lot of fights to have different eating habits and to disagree on what and how much you want to spend on junk food, groceries, fast food. So that's a big thing to budget and make sure that you have come to an agreement or a compromise, or to agree to disagree. The next one to budget about and talk about is rent. So there's a lot of things that goes into rent. There's still utilities and stuff like that, but when it comes to rent, you have to agree, compromise, stuff like that, because for some people, they're okay with spending a ton of money on rent to get features. So most of the time, your rent is not just like rent, okay? It's based on features. So there's walk-in closets, there's pools, there's gyms, there's on-site laundry, and then there's like in the home laundry. So for me personally, I do not care if I have to like walk outside of my apartment to do my laundry, but some people hate it. They hate having to pay to do laundry. They want a washer and dryer in their apartment, and they're willing to pay more for that. And so I know a lot of married couples do want to have laundry in their house. They want a washer and dryer, and then they also want a gym that comes with the rent. And so that's a big thing, is that some people do not want to spend all their money on rent, and some people think that they really have to get the features that they want. So that's something you really have to talk about and think about what's a priority for you. So like for me, having a gym is really, really important because I love fitness, but having a pool is not that important, especially because like I live in Oregon. It's only hot like a few months out of the year, so I really don't need a pool. Next thing is kids. So you have to budget for kids, and I understand that there's been many times for people who get kids unexpectedly. It just happens. It's just something that happens to people. Kids pop up without being planned. But if you can, you have to budget and talk about how much you need to save before you're okay with having a kid, and how much you need to have in savings, have saved, and where you're at in life before having a kid. So that's something like really important to talk about and budget for. The next thing is animals. So most of you know I have a support dog, which I will tell the story about that one day, but I have a support dog named Macy, and for couples who are in an apartment or a rented house, sometimes animals aren't allowed, and so that's something you also have to think about and budget for, because if you decide to get an animal, one, you have to budget for the fact that you have to bring them to the vet, you have to get them food over and over and over again. It's not a one-time expense, and I know a lot of people that think that it's like you buy the animal and that's it. Like you don't have to pay any more money to have the animal. That's not true at all. You have to continuously pay to keep the animal healthy. And most apartment places will charge you ridiculous amount of money to have a pet in your home. So my old apartment complex wanted to charge $500 for an animal fee, and then a continuous animal rent. Luckily for me, because my dog is a support animal, I did not have to do that. But everybody else, if it's not a disability dog or a support dog, you have to pay fees to have your animals. So it's something you have to budget for. Next thing you want to budget for is savings. So for me, I think having $1,000 in a savings account is extremely important, because you never know. You could get into a car crash and not be able to work for months. You could have a surgery. You could have, sadly to say it, the death of a family member and have to pay for like a funeral. You never know when an emergency or a situation will come up where you need way more money than you have. So having $1,000 in savings is really important. So it's something you have to budget for and talk about, is how to pay for your bills like rent, food, all that stuff, and still be able to put money into your savings, which is why it's also important with the other things to talk about. You know, how much am I going to spend on groceries? How much am I going to spend on rent? You know, what's a priority for us to spend money on in order to still be adding money to saving. The next thing you have to budget for is travel and vacations. So there's some people who, as soon as they get married or as soon as they're like a couple, they want to travel, they want to go on weekend getaways, they want to go on vacations. So you have to budget for that, because you want to save a couple months ahead of your vacation or travel plans, so that you can fully pay for your trip and not worry about whether or not you can make rent after that trip, or whether or not it's going to affect you having savings. after that. So that's something you have to budget for and talk about, how important it is to you to be traveling a lot, and if you have to do it right away or if you're willing to wait in order to reach other goals. So the last thing is dates and outings. Going on dates is insanely important. Always. It doesn't matter if you're just dating, it doesn't matter if you're engaged, it doesn't matter if you're married. You have to continue to go on dates and put fun in your relationship. So you have to budget for that. I have a list of tons and tons of free dates, but I also have a list of cheap dates where, yeah, it costs some money, but you can budget for that. And outings, you don't always think about it, especially when you're a young person, you know, going to a movie with a friend, or grabbing some frozen yogurt real quick with a friend, or inviting a bunch of people over and ordering pizza. Those things add up really quickly, and it's easy to lose track. So you have to budget and talk about it with your partner. You know, how many times can I go on outings this month? How many times can I entertain friends this month but still keep on budget, still keep on track with our goals? And it's something you have to budget and plan for ahead of time. That was this video. I hope you guys liked it. Leave a comment down below what other topics you want me to talk about. Like I said, this will be an 8-part series, so yeah.